Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talk the Ting with yours truly, Dwayne George and Mr. Hadley Joseph. Tonight, we have one of Dominica's biggest, most popular, most talented from my community, I'm going to say, Michele Henderson with us tonight. How are you doing, Michele?
I'm doing great. Hi.
How is the weather treating you? How is your family with the whole COVID and all of that stuff? Is everybody good?
Yeah, thank God we're doing very well. We're a little bit displaced at the moment, but everybody's well and healthy. So yeah, say praise God.
That's good.
Yep.
Hi, Michele. What's going on?
Hi, Hadley. I'm doing very well, and you?
I'm good.
I'm actually closer to Hadley than anybody else right now.
Yeah. So we've been having these episodes, and so far it's been going really good. I mean, one person that we definitely wanted to have on when we first discussed this was yourself.
Wow.
So it's very humbling, at least for myself. I don't know about Hadley. Hadley, no, it's very humbling for me to to speak to you on this kind of platform, which is great. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So just give us a little bit of a background, right? Who according to Hadley, who is is Michele Henderson?
It's so funny. I remember somebody asking that question, not such a pleasant way, but like who's Michele Henderson? But and my brother had the pleasure of answering that. My brother Jonathan already. But anyway, I'm a girl from Granby. I'm from the Mabouche section of Granby, which is like the quiet people section of Granby, kind of.
So you're from Mabouche?
I'm from Mabouche. That is down by the sea next to the church. You check. So, and I grew up there. I grew up in a household of my mom, my dad, and I have two other siblings, and my grandmother. And we grew up a country life, no man. Go outside. I had chickens to feed every morning before I went to school, and chores to do, sweeping the yard and scrubbing the house and washing plates and. So I grew up in a very rural setting, and my family had a love for music, so I naturally went into music and became a musician.
Okay, so
any other no, sorry, Hadley, but any other interests apart from music growing up, or did you always feel like you would ultimately end up in music?
I had a passion for the water. I actually, when I was in school, wanted to become a marine biologist. So I actually studied biology and geography at school for those purposes, because I really was interested in the ocean and ocean life. And that was my thing. But I always had music in my life, because my father was a musician. My grandfather was a musician. I have cousins who are musicians, uncles, and we just a musical family. So I guess it's something I took for granted. Music was something that I was always around me, and I enjoyed doing it. But then as I got older, I got interested in the ocean and ocean life and that sort of thing. And I really wanted to be a marine biologist, but music was like nagging at me. I was slowly but surely being drawn into a life of performance. And by the time I was, I'd say 15, I knew that I really was going to be a musician.
Okay, so your family is a musical family. I know the Henderson brothers. Are they related to you?
Which Henderson brothers, darling?
Those who played with they played with Midnight Groovers and also Nasir.
Absolutely. Oh, those Henderson brothers.
Yeah.
Yes, Kelvin and Clyde, and yes. In fact, the whole the Southern community, the Granburians in the Southern community are related, and even those who are ventured out into other parts of Dominica can find their roots in Granby. So yeah, even like Gordon was born in Portsmouth, but his grandfather lived 2 houses from where I grew up. So his grandfather was a brother of my grandfather. So it's most all the Hendersons basically in Dominica are related. Most of them come from Granby. So especially if they're still in Granby, then we're definitely related.
Okay, so we know how you got into music. It was inevitable. It was inevitable, surrounded by people in music. But at what point did you decide, yes, that's what I want to do? When did you start playing music? And not just playing music, but do you actually play an instrument? So you have 2 questions in one. When did you actually say, yes, I'm going to do that? And the whole idea of being a musician, because I know there are some artists who they just sing and some play. So there's 2 questions in one.
Well, I started playing an instrument at 9.
Whoa.
Yes. But, I studied with recorder at home, actually. And then when I went to school, I went to the Rosa Girls School. Believe it or not, I went to Rosa Girls School for 1 year out of my private school education. And there I did a recorder workshop with Miss Mayma Joseph. And of course, because I was playing recorder already at home, I sort of did better than the students who were just learning for the first time, right? So she decided to recommend me to Leng Sorrento and the Kyrie School of Music. And so she, along with Patricia Benjamin, who was the principal of Rosa Girls School at the time, both made a recommendation to the Kyrie School of Music, and I applied, and Kyrie School of Music accepted me to be a student. So I started learning music, and I started with recorder, but then I transitioned onto flute later on. So formal music education for me started at 9. And while at Kyrie School of Music, of course, I participated in several of the productions. We used to have big productions at Kyrie School of Music, full-length plays, musicals that were so well produced that when I look back at it, I'm thinking, wow, we should revive that sort of activity again. The Cicero Singers are still doing productions like that. But imagine when we were much younger, we were like primary school children, we were 9 and 10, and we were doing full-scale productions, of course, produced by Pearl Christian and the Kyrie School of Music. So I got into that level of performance from a very early age. And I loved it. I liked the attention. I liked performance. I liked the expression. So for me, it was as early as that. And I transitioned into this well of the ocean kind of thing. And that's the reason why I chose flute, actually, because it reminded me of the sound of whales. And so I was like, maybe I could speak to the whales if I played the flute. And from there, by the time I was 15, 16, I met members of the band Impact. And they were actually performing live, at concerts, at events, and so on. And I joined that group and started an actual professional career as a musician.
So you said you enjoy the attention. That kind of piqued my interest there, because that's something that many people would not admit, right? People don't like to have the mindset of people thinking that they like attention or stuff like that. But even now, when you perform, after so many years of doing it, do you still feel nervous? Do you still get butterflies? Is that something that you just naturally gravitate to?
It depends. I still do get nervous depending on the audience that I'm performing. Funny enough, I'm more nervous in front of a smaller audience than I am in front of a larger audience. So if the situation is, if the setting is more intimate, then I might be more like, ooh. But if there's a lot of people, then that doesn't, a lot of people doesn't faze me. That's not like
why do you think that is?
Probably because people in an intimate setting, they're closer to you. They can see every move, every motion. So you're a little bit more attention is placed on, okay, am I doing it right? As opposed to being in a huge audience where there's so many people. You don't necessarily have people's eyes directly in front of you, staring you down. So it's kind of a little less intimidating to have a larger crowd for me. But yeah, I do get nervous, I say, if I'm going to perform in front of a head of state or some, dignitary, then sometimes I do feel a little bit okay. But as soon as I step onto the stage, that disappears. Instantly. So it's a psychological thing,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
but I still do like I like the attention when I'm there. And the only reason I like the attention is because it allows me to express emotion in a way I can see and feel how the people react. And I like that. That for me is a means of communication. My whole purpose as an artist is to communicate. So when I get attention from the audience, even if it's attention that is like they're not so thrilled, I can transition that into my performance and into a delivery that ultimately at the end of the performance, I know they're going to understand what I was doing and they will be appreciative of it. So I do relish that experience. There's nothing like it. I don't know of any other experience I can compare it to say, well, that's what it feels like. It's just being on a stage. I think any artist knows that when you're on the stage, that feeling you get when the audience gives you their energy and you give back. It's unparalleled.
I don't know if you remember. I one thing I remember about Michele, right? This is my own little personal story, right? I was going to school at the time in the community center in Granby.
Uh-huh.
And I think your sister was teaching there at the time.
Yes, she did, actually.
Yeah, and I remember you came there one day to look for her. And I mean, I was young at the time, and maybe it was, in primary school. And I like, oh boy, Michele Henderson. I was like, it's crazy. Like I was thinking about it the other day. And then, I mean, I went to school with your brother, so
Right.
I know, I know your family and stuff. But, I was thinking, I say, man, I wonder if Michele even remember that.
I wouldn't. But I do remember my sister used to teach. At that time, the lower grades were in the community center at the time. The grade 1s, grade 2. Yeah, they were in. Yep. Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
you remember that, right?
I remember that. I remember at that time, right? You had a song you were singing. I don't know if I knew your father, obviously,
Past, yeah.
Your family, but you have a song you were singing, "My Pride," I think was the name of the song. And I always liked that song. And my mother always used to sing that song. Always used to sing the song, sing the song. And then I remember as well, when you said Impact, I was trying to ask Hadley the other day, like, who's the band that Michele was playing with in the late 90s?
Yeah.
And I remember that song "A River," which was which is one of my favorite songs of yours, by the way.
Yes, I did. Yeah, yes, your memory serves you well.
So I say all of that to say you said you started with Impact. How did that whole process come? How did you even get involved with joining the band? And did they contact you? Did you ask to join the band? How did that work?
Believe it or not, it was through my English teacher. My at the time I was just getting out of Dominica Grammar School. And my English teacher then was Corinne Dura, and her husband at the time, Irvin Dura, was managing the Impact Band. And at that time I had sung my whole life through school. Every grade, every form, I was doing something. I was either performing at graduation or at an assembly or something. So the band itself they were doing their own launching. And she thought it would be good that I perform as a guest performer at the launching of the event. So that is how I got introduced to the band. And it took me to the band space, and I met the guys, and they weren't too impressed because I was very young and inexperienced. But they gave me a chance, and then I did the launching of the event with them, and they were like, "Oh, this is a nice fit." So I stuck with the band.
So what impact or what effect or what can you say that
what impact
yes, pun intended, yes.
what aspect of Michele can you say right now that would maybe be a product of you being a part of a band? Because majority of the people know Michele for the entire of their lives as a solo act. And it's not something that we see that much coming from Dominica, but that's how people know you. But a lot of people didn't know about Impact. So what impact did Impact have on you?
Impact had a huge impact on me. As a matter of fact, musicians that played with me in Impact still play. That Impact was what, 24 years ago or so. and Jerry still plays with me, who's the guitarist for Impact.
Notes.
Right, Jerry Muller, and of course Roland Dessel Jr. I'm married to, was the bass player for Impact. So Impact has been in my life for the last 26, I would say, years. So a huge impact. I would not have gotten I think my initiation, let's call it that. That is the word I'm looking for. The initiation into live performance as a featured artist came from Impact. And I learned a lot about dealing with a team. I learned how to fit within a band, how to not feel too overwhelmed, because it was overwhelming. And the musicians from Impact were very, very accomplished. They were very good musicians. And at that time, they were playing jazz. So they were playing at a much higher level than I was ever exposed to at the time. So it forced me to up my game. It forced me to pay attention to my instrument, pay attention to my level of performance, so I could meet the standard of the band that I had just joined. And then to meet and to a certain extent surpass, because I had to be the lead. So I had to have, that level of professionalism, that performance acumen, and still do it at a level that the band felt comfortable to let me lead. You understand?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was my experience with Impact. And even if the band itself didn't last much longer after that, a lot of the musicians stayed with me as a solo artist for a long time in my life. And we traveled and toured and had a very, very pleasant experience with the members of the band.
So in terms of you joined the band, and obviously it didn't go much further than that, but you still went on as a solo artist.
Right.
Was that an easy decision, or did you get a lot of encouragement with that? Did you get discouragement?
Well, the band, it was more of a band decision than me, because some of the members actually got sought employment overseas, and they got employed in the cruise industry and they were playing overseas. So that's kind of why the band kind of dissipated, because members had to go. But when Junior came back and Lloyd came back, they wanted to play again, but we didn't play under the banner of Impact. We just, Junior suggested that I start, doing my solo career, taking my solo career more seriously. And so they joined us there. So Jerry started playing with us. Lloyd was playing with us, and Speedy as well. Speedy is Junior Wayland, who played keyboard for Impact at the time. So then we started doing stuff as Michele Henderson and her band. So it wasn't like, okay, we break up the band and I was leaving and they were doing something else. Impact essentially continued as Michele Henderson.
On the different moniker. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
So nobody can say you break up the band.
No, I didn't break up the band.
Matter of fact, it was their idea.
Yeah, but pretty much it was more Junior's idea than mine. But because at that time I was still shy about doing it on my own. But I guess he had more confidence. So sometimes some people believe in you more than you believe in yourself.
Yeah,
and he kind of had that. Well, he's that kind of person who has a strong conviction about things, and when he does it, he jumps headfirst into the deepest part. And so because of that bravery, because of that courage, I was able to start a musical career and be successful at it.
Okay. Just a little segue here. People, those viewing, we would appreciate if you guys share. Tag your friends. We have the Princess of Dominica's music. But it's time to get into some of the tricky questions.
Share the life.
Share the life. Time to get into the meat. So, what asked you a simple and straightforward question, I think.
Yes, Daddy.
What kind of artist do you consider yourself as?
How is that simple and straightforward? Wow.
I'm taking a sip on that one.
I'm a multifaceted artist. I like performing music. I like playing my instrument. I like singing different genres of music. I like poetry. I like performance. I like moving an audience. So I'm not sure what categories you would be referring to when you say kind of artist.
Okay, so let's narrow it down, because if we have to stay that broad, then
Yes,
we can stay there till
we'd be
around
here
11
forever.
o'clock.
Right.
Genre-wise.
Oh, I'm not a genre artist.
Okay.
I'm not a genre artist. I've done every genre that I feel comfortable in, and I do not actually wish to box myself into a genre particularly. And that's fine. I know that doesn't necessarily work for the industry per se, but that's just me. I feel like I can sing anything, and whatever I feel like singing, I will sing. I don't. Even when I write songs, people tell me like, "How do you choose a genre?" I generally don't. I write a song, and whatever genre it comes in, it comes out that way.
And the reason why that question comes up with if when we interview an artist or musician is, for me, is conversations that I've had where people say like, sometimes when artists don't really make it is because like they don't have that direct identity, you know. But apparently it could work because you're an international superstar.
Well, I think that depends on what you define as making it, because a lot of people feel if you're not super popular on the American market or the Western music market, then you're not making it, which is a false concept, really. There are many artists around the world who are performing successfully and have great careers. I met a gentleman who is a guitarist from Antigua who is performing so much. He has to take a break to come back to Antigua just to say hi to his family. Spends most of his time in Japan and Asia and all. So it's not necessarily, and none of us know about him. Like no Dominican would know this gentleman. So it's not a matter of the idea of making it for a lot of people is if you're not on mainstream American TV, then you haven't quite made it. But a lot of us are performing successfully around the world without being in that particular market. So you can do that in different genres. You can do that in jazz. Jazz allows you a certain leeway to break into many different genres. Like I can go to a jazz festival and play street cadas, and they will still appreciate it as some offshoot of jazz, if you call it that. So I like performing cadas just because it's representative of where I'm from, and it's interesting to see people wake up to a new style of music that they've never heard before. But I also have a passion for jazz and for R&B and soul, and anything else, any song that sparks my interest, or any style, I sing it. So and I don't think that has limited me per se, to be honest.
So with that said, what do you think is your highest achievement in your career?
Wow, highest.
And that's a fan question.
And that's a question that came from a viewer.
Fan question. To share this stage with artists who the world recognize as the best in the business. I've performed with, and this is mostly in the jazz arena, but I've performed with people like Chick Corea and Stanley Clarke, who are legends of jazz. Like their music is in books where people go to school to study. When you go to Berklee College of Music, you study these guys, and I've not only shared this stage with them, they have requested that I perform with them. So it gives me a certain sense of accomplishment that they would think that my level of performance is such that they would want me to share the stage with them. And that for me is a great musical accomplishment. It doesn't, even if I never win, I never make millions and millions of dollars, just to be counted amongst the people in the world who are at the top of their game, at the top of any music industry. If you talk to anybody in production right now, even if they're doing hip hop, they know who these people are. They know who Chick is. Right. So for me to be able to rank amongst those great people is, to me, the greatest achievement that I've had in music. And I would probably put almost on par with that, is being able to gift the Caribbean with its own anthem. I feel like this is something that's historic. It's just like we go to school and we learn history and we learn that, Mr. Pond wrote the anthem for Dominica, or years from now, decades from now, a century from now, children in school, they're already doing it in the Caribbean, are going to know that the CARICOM anthem was written by Michele Henderson of Dominica. That is for me the greatest.
So that said, how does that fit in? Because I know that you are an ambassador for Dominica. So how does that fit in when you actually get to meet these people? And because even like living up here, right? So one of the things, like, you meet people and you tell them, "Oh, I'm from Dominica," and they're like, "Oh, DR." You're like, "No."
Yeah, immediately, right? It's funny, but yes, that happens a lot. But thankfully, I take it up on, even before I was designated an official ambassador, I would take it upon myself to describe to people exactly where I was from. And so I was doing that role before I actually received the moniker that goes with it,
right.
So
I mean, you should.
Yeah. So for me, it was always it was always that I'm from Dominica, not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. I remember I was given a speech once at a graduation ceremony, and the world over, when you give a speech, the organizers and producers have to check your speech and to time it to make sure that it fits within because they have satellite time, blah, blah, blah. And then, so they said to me, "Well, you don't need to say the Dominican Republic." So I said, "Yes, I do." I was like, "Yes, I do." And when I gave that speech and I said who I was, and I was from the island of Dominica, not to be confused with the Dominican Republic, there was a collective gasp because it was so needed. A lot of people assumed that Dominica and the Dominican Republic were the same country. So I could hear it in the audience. They were like, "Oh," So it's always important to me to point out that. And at first I was a little annoyed, but I realized I shouldn't sort of feel bad that people do not know where this island is. It's really up to us, we the people, we the ambassadors, to do that job and let the world know who we are.
Okay. I still want to get to talk about the ambassadorship, but a little later. That question might be a little, I mean, after doing performances with Chick Corea, I mean,
Chick.
Right. I'm still going to ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
If there was any artist that you would want to do a collaboration with, and that's dead or alive, I mean, dead or alive, who would that artist be?
Michael Jackson.
You see,
that answer just came like that. I love that, man. I love it.
Right. We asked Shelly that question, and Shellen said, "Well, you would think I would want to do a collaboration with somebody who's alive, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but trust me, I can see why you would want Michael Jackson, even if he's dead." But that's
yeah.
Michael Jackson. I mean, we all have people.
Maybe not for the reasons that people might think. The reason I would pick Michael Jackson necessarily is that his passion was what I was most impressed with, more than just his music, but his passion for performing, for pleasing an audience. This man was just like in a class by himself. There's no one to compare Michael Jackson to, like nobody whatsoever. So for me, if I had a once in a lifetime to do a collaboration, that would be the person I would pick to do it with. And just after that, it would be Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder.
Well, that one can still happen.
That one can still happen.
Yeah.
You know how funny it is, because again, I was in LA doing an event, and Chick Corea's wife, Gail, says to me, "Oh, you know what? Chick is doing an event at the Catalina Club in a few days, and it would be great if you join us, right?" And I said, unfortunately, I had another event. I had to fly out the next day, so I couldn't stay. I couldn't break my contract with the other event. And I cried, because it was like, I left, went to the other event. When I got to the other event, it was canceled.
Oh, wow.
And guess who showed up at the Catalina Club that night when they invited
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. Oh my God.
And that is one of the, I already said I'm not living my life with regrets, but that is one of the times that I almost kicked myself in the shin, because I'm like, you could have been there that night with Chick Corea and Stevie Wonder.
And Stevie Wonder, yep.
Top out to
yeah, I'm telling you, and that night they did a version of Gangsta's Paradise, which has, like, blown up, because Chick was on piano and Stevie was on his harmonica. And I ended up, funny enough, at another show, Chick invited me to perform Gangsta's Paradise with him, me on flute and him on piano.
Oh wow.
That's amazing. So yeah, but that would have been the coolest thing ever, to have been there with Stevie Wonder and Chick Corea. That would have been like funny. Moving on.
So with all the, for lack of a better word, pressures in the music industry, especially in the region, especially on females, where I've noticed that, and it's a worldwide thing, where females have to be sort of bringing that sexual aura to their performance. But I've never seen you do that. So and maybe that's why maybe you didn't veer off into maybe the bouillon or the soca arena. But what drives you? Seeing that the thing that you do is not what everybody else is into, especially back home. So, like, basically, Michele is the only one right now, apart from Ophelia, doing, the Kadas music, the old school Dominican music. What drives you to keep doing that? Because look at all the opportunities you have, but you still come back to your roots.
Well, for me, I guess it's just who I am. And I don't fault anybody for doing the other styles of music, like, whatever is what your passion, what you feel is true to you. And I love soca music. When I'm in my house with we have the TV on, and with soca music and bouillon, that's what plays. And at my sister's home right now, and we're here we're in the US right now and stuff, and everybody has that nostalgia, that feeling for Dominica. So all we play is soca and bouillon and music from back home. And I have zero issues with performers expressing their sexuality, and it's just not my style. That's all. It's just because I will go to a jam like that, a bouillon jam, and I will enjoy myself, because I love bouillon music just like every other Dominican. So and people dancing and whining, that's all I think. That's all Dominicans are, really. It's just not my performance style. That's all.
Right.
It's just not a style that I do. Just like some people are very good at calypso and some people not so good at calypso. And I'm not talking about the singing, I'm just talking about presenting a calypso. And some are not. So it's just not that style of music that I'm very good at. That's all. But I have sung bouillon before. I've sung bouillon songs. But just closer to be, that's more authentically me. I like the authenticity of presenting myself as I am, and not necessarily having to conform to any other. Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Since you brought up calypso, you also write. And you have written quite a bit of calypsos, right?
I've written, well, in calypso, one of the songs I've written had made it to the finals with Beno. It's called New Peace, and he sang that one. And I've written My Pride, believe it or not, started off as a calypso when I was very young. I was actually planning to write it for a junior monarch, but it didn't quite pan out that way. And so when I found out about Dumbfester, I said, well, I have this idea, I should just use it. And I did end up using it, and it turned out into something not quite calypso. But I can write in any genre. I've written bouillon songs. I've collaborated with Colin on the Bouillon Army song. I've, written Celebrating the Journey Together is a bouillon tune as well. So for me, I can go back and forth in the genres. Writing them, singing them is not a problem. It's just, my performance style is just different. That's all.
So with that said, now, was there one performance I know you've been all around the world, right? But was there one performance that you were contacted for and you were like, what? Like me? Me?
Let's see. I'm not really sure. Well, kind of. There's one that's recently, but it was canceled because of COVID-19, and it's a red carpet event that's happening in Hollywood, actually. Yeah, so I was kind of like, you want me to do that? Wow,
Yeah.
okay. Unfortunately, that was canceled because of the whole COVID-19 issue. So, but apart from that, not really, like I just see everything as a new challenge, and just rub my hands. Yay, okay. Next, let's do the next thing. Yeah, let's go do that. And it took a while for me to get to a point of accepting in myself that yes, the reason why people are calling is because I'm able to do this, and I have to keep reminding myself I'm able to do this, so that I don't just go into a sense of, oh God, am I there's that nervous feeling of not being able to accomplish what it is. I put it aside, but it took some time for me to get to that point in my life. So now I can put that aside, and I know that even just by watching not just myself but other Dominican performers, that we can perform at the highest level of performance there is on the planet. We can do it, and we should just dispel with this idea that we come from a small island, and so because of that we're not able to rise to the occasion. We can. I've proven it. Colin has proven it. Tripica has proven it. With Gordon proves it all the time. Ophelia proves it. I mean, so we have to sort of disabuse our idea of this small island mentality that we don't deserve to be on international stages and those kinds of things.
So this is one question we've asked every musician who's come on so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's a two-part question.
Oh boy.
What is your biggest song?
Where?
And what do you think is your biggest song? If you understand the question right.
Well, I do. To be honest, you probably have to ask the audience what is the biggest song, because I don't know, the song I like will not be the one that everybody else likes.
Well, so basically, that's what we're asking.
That's what we're asking. So, which is that one song that blew up, right? Let's say numbers wise, popularity wise, that that made a lot of noise. Right. And then which is the song that you maybe wrote, and while you're writing it, you're like, yo, this is gonna be good, and I love it, but it didn't really, kick on like you expected.
Okay, so it must make me pick favorites, but the song that I wrote, I think that did the best in the market, especially on the French market. It went to #1 on the Zouk charts in Paris and so on, was a song called Parler C'est Moi. And believe it or not, that was the song that everybody liked. And the beat goes on, has gone like all over the Caribbean. Everybody go, oh, that's your song, yeah. So that one, those two. And the song that I wrote that I probably liked the most, probably Home. That I feel that could be probably a song that would go further. It's a song that I wrote about Dominica called Home. But in honest to God, I think my favorite song that I've ever written is a song called Tikaila, which a lot of people don't really know about. But it's a very intimate song, a song about growing up in the countryside in like a rural setting. And I think that song I like the most just because of how it's written. It's very different. It's in Creole. And then Home I like because I think it's a very emotional song. It really draws on how passionate I am about being from Dominica and my roots, my African roots, my Kalinago roots, and what really makes me me. The other songs were just songs that I wrote, for Parler C'est Moi was like an experiment. I just wrote this song. I wanted to venture into the Creole market, and it was like, oh, let me write a song that's kind of like what they're accustomed to, and boom, that was it.
Yeah.
And the beat goes on was written from experience as well, but did not expect the impact that it has.
But I mean, I'll tell you, I told you, A River is one of my favorite songs of yours. But one song that, listen, every time we have a barbecue or something, people always say, oh, you have to play that song. Sacrifice. Sacrifice. Oh my God. I love how you sound on that song. So every time I have a gathering, I always find a reason to play it.
That's from Musicano, right?
Yep.
That's from Musicano. So Musicano projects, those songs were written in collaboration with Eddie Angol and Elisha Benoit and myself wrote, the three of us wrote that particular song. The original idea was Eddie Angle's idea, and then Elisha worked on it, and then I worked on the part that I sang.
Oh, nice. Well, I've had the opportunity to work alongside you.
Yes.
I think I was lucky to do that. And with Gordon and Ophelia. And to me, I used to be like, pinch myself, man. I'm on stage with Michele and Gordon. But I'm pretty sure that there was a time when you felt that way. So how was it like your first time being introduced and actually working with Gordon and Ophelia? How was that like? You know, the greats, and you are in the arena with them, and tell us about that.
Well, I'll tell you about my first experience actually traveling with Ophelia. I was probably 16 years old, I think. And we attended an event. It was an award ceremony, an emergence award ceremony in Martinique, where I was receiving an award for being a young, upcoming Caribbean performer. And she was my chaperone, believe it or not. Ophelia Marie was my chaperone. So we got to the airport, landed, and when we walked into the customs and immigration area, everything stopped. And I tell you, everything stopped. Everybody there stopped what they were doing. And you could literally, it was almost like a wave passing through the building. Ophelia, like Ophelia's here. And people, I mean, you're normally not supposed to have cameras in that area, but people were like, everybody wanted to take a picture with her. The customs officers were all in awe, everybody, immigration. I don't even remember if they stamped our passports, to be honest with you. It was like gliding on a cloud through the airport, because everybody was in such awe that Ophelia Marie was in the building. And let me tell you, the first night when I met with all the other laureates, the people who were receiving awards from different countries, and those girls from Martinique and Guadeloupe, they were in shock. None of them could believe that Ophelia was sitting at the table with us. It's like Beyonce had arrived, and it was she's here, and they started singing Ophelia's songs at the table. Wow. So imagine I'm 16. You can imagine the kind of impression that left on me. That here was a celebrated hero. I'd never seen that happen in Dominica for Ophelia.
Wow.
You know? So for me, it was bittersweet. I reveled in the moment, because I'm saying, she's my chaperone, she's mine, not yours. You know? But at the same time, it drove home to me that a prophet is never honored in their own country, honestly. Because the level of reverence I saw people give to Ophelia out there, and in Dominica, it was like kind of like, oh, okay, it's Ophelia. That changed my concept of who she was and the kind of respect that she deserved. And I was humbled and honored that she actually agreed to go with me on this trip. She didn't have to, but she did. And it was just, so since then I've been in awe of her. She has been very much like a mother to me. She is a mentor. She has advised me on many different things in my personal life, marriage, music. And she has always been an ally, always. She's always, and she did not even remember the first time I met her. The first time I actually met her, I was about 9 years old or 10 years old. And I had sang at the Kyrie School of Music production. I think it was Maruka at that time. And she walked up to me after the show and told me how impressed she was with my voice, and gave me tips on how to project my voice further to the back of the room. I never forgot that. I was probably 10, but I never forgot that, you know? And then at 16, she's chaperoning me to Martinique, and I mean, the red carpet was rolled out for her. And I'm like, wow, what an experience. So from that time, I developed an even greater reverence for herself and for Gordon. And I don't remember what country I was in. Somebody from Albania was telling me about Exile 1. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
God, I know the lady was from Albania. And I was like, wow. Dominican music has reached heights that Dominicans have no clue, no idea. I mean, people have no idea that Nasio was mobbed basically in Africa when he went there. People broke down fences and, you know, to see him like it was the Beatles, like it was Michael Jackson. So Dominican artists have that level of reverence in many places around the world, and we really should have a sense of respect. So I know what you felt, Hadley. When I was on stage with them, I had the same level of reverence and a sense of thank God that I'm able to actually share the stage with people like that I can glean from the experience, that they feel me and people and you, Hadley, worthy of sharing the same space as them. And they were humble enough to let us do it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So with that said, you mentioned, you know, your reverence for Ophelia and, you know, that whole experience. So on the flip side, right? Because I mean, one of the important things is when we actually go through these kind of experiences, we want to kind of give back the same kind of, you know, thing, you know. So on the flip side, what do you think, where do you think Dominica's music is in terms of, especially with women, right? And you know, what's your stance on that? What do you think we can do to help push, you know, the younger female artists who are interested, whether it be in Bouillon or in any genre?
Yeah. I think the most that is needed is that level of encouragement. People need to feel supported. Artists need to feel like they have a support system, and that will propel you to even reach higher, to improve your skill, to just go for it, because it is important that you feel like you represent somebody, that you're not just doing it for yourself, but you're not just doing it or for money or for fame, or that there's a greater purpose behind what you're doing, and that support would provide that. You have it could be immediate support, family, friends, but the nation, if you have a nation of people behind you who are, you know, look at Marshall. Every Trinidadian in the world supports Marshall. It's like, you know what I mean? He's just an icon. Or every Jamaican supports Bob Marley. If you throw the support behind the artists like that, they can accomplish amazing things, because that support gives you the energy, the drive to actually do better, to do more. So, and I think that is lacking amongst our like in our music industry, not amongst, but in our music industry. And I think also an education on the music business would help. If people understand the business that they are in, or artists understand what their rights are, what rights they don't give up, what rights to keep, what, you know, how are the valuable ways of what is your valuable product, what you are actually selling, which market you're selling it to. Just learn those particular things. And then I think we will see, if we have that kind of support, we have support on a level of government, a level of community, a level of the entire country, on a level of what festivals we have and how we promote our own local music along with the international acts. All those things will work together to build the industry and to help younger artists have a better future in music, because it's there. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I don't see why we're not taking it to the level of, okay, we have the raw talent, let's just develop it. That's all that really needs to be done. You have the raw talent, let's just develop it. South Korea has done exactly that, and their acts, their bands, their musicians, their movies are now at the top. They just won an Oscar. Paradise just won an Oscar for Best Picture. BTS is the biggest boy band in the world, and they don't even speak English.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it can be done. Like, all you have to do, there's an investment and a level of support that is needed to get to that level, and that's all we really need.
I mean, I can tell that you haven't necessarily turned your back, because the same way you talk about Ophelia is the same way Colin spoke about you last week. And
really? And I didn't see that show. Oh man.
So,
I guess I'll have to watch it.
So yeah,
so Dominica has a gem in Cali XP. Let me tell you about it, that we have not fully appreciated, and we will see, you know, because I mean, she's very driven, and she has a team. She has a team of people that will propel her even further than where she is now. But I don't want us to appreciate too late. I wrote out a post this morning on my Facebook. Do not wait to appreciate. And that is what I feel about certain artists, especially Colin in Dominica. It's like we're waiting until something happens, until she becomes Either she blows up like Beyonce of the soca or booyah world, or something happens and then we say, oh, well, Colleen she's from Dominica. I know how we should do that. No.
Yep.
No. Right. No, do that for Colleen, do that for Tasha, do that for Mel, do that for, the other artists. Let's just celebrate the people who are making the effort to. It takes a lot out of them. A lot to put the shows together, to put an act together, wardrobe. Colleen sings for like 3 hours straight. Like, I don't know any other artist who does that. Female artist who is that good to do that. So we need to encourage people like that. We need to encourage people when they are giving their all, when they're laying all out on the line to represent us, to do things for us. Because don't kid yourself. When you put out art like that, it's for the whole community. It's not just Colleen who benefits from it, or Tasha who benefits from it, or Mel or Michele. The name of the country goes on the map. Yep. So all of us benefit from it. So we really should show our support for our artists, because the kind of marketing they can give to us, we wouldn't be able enough to pay. Country can't afford to pay for the kind of marketing we can get from having a successful artist out there on the market.
So one more thing though is that, I mean, and that's a conversation I've had with Hadley numerous times. What I like about you specifically is that your music is available to listen to. It's available to stream. It's available to be bought. That's a big deal, because it's the same thing like when we have the discussions about, getting access to Dominica, and some people agree that we should have an international airport. We shouldn't have it, whatever it is. But my thing is access is a big deal, because if I'm asking somebody who doesn't know who Michele Henderson is, say, hey, go listen to Michele Henderson's music, and then they have to actually go all over the internet to find it, that's a big deal. So what do you think? Do you think that is something that's essential for artists in Dominica? And is that something that you've targeted, or you've definitely tried to have to put your music out there like that?
Absolutely. It is especially in the digital world that we live. Maybe before you could probably get away with having a bunch of CDs and everywhere you go sell them. Not now. Can't do this. Right now, music has gone digital. And so it needs to be available to potential clients. You want people to use the music and you get paid for it. Or call you up for potential gigs and things like that. So it needs to be available. It needs to be available to anyone, anywhere around the world. So platforms like Spotify and iTunes and Pandora and Google Play, put your music there so that anybody, anywhere, in any part of the world who has an internet connection can actually have access to. And even SoundCloud and those kinds of platforms, CD Baby, allow you to do that. With me, I have a distribution deal with a company called Believe Digital, does all the major platforms. So I don't have to approach each platform individually and say, well, iTunes, okay, I need this. iTunes basically won't pay much attention to you unless you have a sales. So you have sales figures that are well into the hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands or whatever. So you do this through aggregate distributors like Believe. Believe is one of those. CD Baby is one of those as well. So, and people have access to, right now, it's not like you have to go for a record company to do that. Right now, you have access to these platforms. So our artists need to consider that the first thing you do is when you make your creation, the first thing you do is to register your creation as yours. Okay, join collection society and make sure that your music is protected before you release it. And when you do release it, you can use any of those platforms to get your music out there and promote like crazy. Go on Facebook, use social media, and every opportunity you get to promote, because that's the way you're going to get seen. It has to be available online. Right now, there's no other choice. In
right.
Today's digital world, there's no other choice.
Okay. So we're nearing the end, and what you just said, I'm actually tired of saying it myself. Just last week, Colleen actually spoke on that. But we put out there, we asked our viewers and your fans to send questions, and some questions that we decided not to talk about, and some that I think a lot of people asked about it. A lot of people have been speculating as to your religious belief. A lot of people saying, some people saying Michele is a Scientologist, but she's saying she's been pulling away from it, or she hasn't been forthcoming about whether she is part of it or not. That's what some people say. I told a lot of people that is not the case. But I'm gonna ask you, for the people out there who are interested in Michele's religious belief, would you mind please elaborating on that for them?
Yeah, I feel if anybody is interested, my Facebook page has an about section and it says religion Scientology. So I have been a Scientologist for, I'd say, maybe 14 years. And it is a way of life that I have found very useful in my development as an artist. I've learned so many techniques and methods of communication and how to handle people, how to deal with people, how to understand human behavior from it, that it is, I consider it invaluable to my existence. I don't know how I existed without it, to be honest. I've learned so much that has made me a better person. And I love the person I am today more than the person I was before. So yes, I am very proud to say that I'm a Scientologist. And I know a lot of people have heard a lot of negative comments, but a lot of times when something is good and something challenges the status quo of people in power, they will start to say bad things about it. And that has been my experience with Scientology. And the same thing happened, if everybody remembers their history, the same thing happened with Christianity. And Jesus, he was actually crucified on a cross because of that same concept of this is new and it threatens what is our established norm. And so we need to crucify it and get rid of it. And I see the same thing, history repeating itself in this case, because there's so much information out there that a lot of the powers that we do not want you to know, that they will crucify your messenger. And that's simply what I've seen happening. But just for anybody who wants to know, yes, I am definitely. There's actually, if you go to www.scientology.org, there's an episode on there that says Meet a Scientologist, Michele Henderson, and you can find out about me.
Ask about me. Ask about me. So, Michele, I have one more question for you.
Yes.
And it's something that you mentioned early on in the interview, and we kind of gloss over it. And you were talking about the impact that Impact had on you, and some of the people that was in Impact that is still actually with you today, right? 20 plus years later. And one of those people was your husband. Well, is your husband.
Yes.
So in terms of your husband, I think, am I right in saying that he's your producer, right? Is that correct?
He's produced all the albums that I've done to date. He has produced. Yep.
So in that case, I mean, how is that dynamic when you guys working together, right? Is that well?
You asked Colin that question too.
Yes, we did.
Of course.
Funny enough, I think she and I kind of like live in parallel lives, but yeah, it's a blessing and a challenge at the same time, and I'm pretty sure she probably said.
I thought you was going to say curse me.
No, not a curse. It can never be a curse. No, it can never be a curse. I have the two most beautiful children in the world, most talented. From the time I've been married, I've never wanted for anything in my life. My husband has taken care of me from the time we met to this day. So I can never, that is one of the greatest blessings of my life, is finding somebody who knows me well enough, who can deal with because I'm not an easy person to deal with. I mean, people might think, well, Michele looks so nice. I'm not the easiest person to deal with. And I travel all the time. I'm away by myself. It's a lot for somebody like him, for him to have to deal with. And I'm thankful that despite all the challenges we've had, and we've had challenges like every other marriage, we have had challenges, that we've been able to, for the last this year was our 21st anniversary coming up. So we've been able to keep it together for 21 years. And I cannot see how I would want to share with anybody else the success that my life is right now. It's because of him that I'm doing a lot of what I'm doing. If he did not push me, encourage me, and especially at the time when I was very depressed, my father had died and I did not want to do this at all. If it wasn't for him, I would not be doing what I'm doing today. I would not be where I am today. And my mother reminds me of this all the time. If it wasn't for Junior, you would not be doing what you're doing today, which is true. So it's like in that respect, to have that stability in my life of someone who I know cares for me to the fullest, who always has my best interest at heart, who's not always perfect at doing it, but I know he has my best interest at heart. And the same thing with me, I'm not perfect at being a wife, but I have his best interest at heart. And to have that stability in your life, it's invaluable. I do not care what people say, it is invaluable to have somebody who supports you to the moon and back, no matter what. You know, you can't buy this anywhere in any store. So for me, this has been the blessing. The challenge is that, you know, we knock heads. I'm a stubborn person, he's a stubborn person. So obviously when we work, we will come up with, you know, this, I want it this way, no, I want it that way. And there's those disagreements, and you have those challenges with parenting and children and marriage and all those things come up. But I think because we both come from strong families with strong marriages, my parents and his parents, we've made a conscious decision to work things out and to just be there for each other. We are like Bonnie and Clyde, ride or die. That's it.
That's good. I definitely respect that, because you often find people, you know, who are in similar situations. After a while, is like one person, you know, is either their head get too big for it, and they're like, I'm not dealing with that person no more. And so that's refreshing to, you know, to actually know you're the second person, because we are calling on, and she's, like you said, you guys kind of living like a parallel life in a way.
Yeah.
But
and we work together. I mean, we travel together as, you know, as couples, you know, she and Cornell and Junior and myself together. We've done that quite a bit. And so yeah, we understand that dynamic. We both of us understand how fortunate we are to have that level of support, and we also understand how stubborn husbands can be.
Wow. Wow. on that note, so in the next, let's say 5 years or so, I mean, what's next for Michele? What's next for Michele? What can the fans look out for in the next, let's say, 2 to 5 years?
I look forward to continuing to produce music. I look forward to producing all different kinds of music and sort of expanding my horizons, not just to, let's say, the Caribbean and Creole music, but also further afield. And I'm also I'm currently pursuing a law degree with the purpose of getting deeper involved into the business of music. And I think that Dominican artists need a level of representation on the business side and the legal side that we do not quite have here in Dominica. Well, I say here, but I'm not home. But we don't really have much of in the Caribbean. And I want to be that level of representation for artists. So it's not just my goal to continue being a performer and a songwriter, but also to be a business representative for arts and culture in the Caribbean. So I'm actually a student of the University of London at the moment, studying my law degree.
Wow,
so
nice.
Those few things will happen in the next couple of years. And I will keep at it. I'll just keep doing the best I can. I also want to keep up my philanthropy work. I enjoy helping people and giving back. So I do a lot of fundraising events for various charities. And I want, as long as God give me life, I will continue to do that. So I can just infuse life into the society. That's the purpose. That's my purpose on the planet.
One more thing. I keep saying one more thing.
No, it's fine. I'm okay. I'm in no hurry.
Cornell make a comment on the live there. He said, when you make this statement about husbands being difficult, he thinks you meant the other way around.
Husband being stubborn. Well, he would know. Yeah. I like I said, I did admit that I was stubborn too, right? When I didn't say he was stubborn alone. I am very stubborn too, and so yes. So I yes, Cornell, I understand. But I've worked with Cornell. I've been working with Cornell since I was probably 16 years old too, you know. When we started doing, even before Musicano, I started working with Cornell when I started doing background vocals for Calypso when I was in in Clifton Dipping Community College.
Oh, wow.
So many years, we go way back. And a lot of them, obviously the musical success that we've had, we work on that project together, and he's traveled with me all around the world, playing keyboards with me. So I have a great respect for him and what he's doing. And yeah, I want to see Dominican music, elevate as a collective. I like for all of us to be successful, for we have a good cadre of artists who people respect from the island of Dominica. You know what I mean? And that can only augur well for the music industry in the future.
All right. So with that said, we definitely appreciate having you on. We definitely enjoyed the interview. We enjoyed having the conversation with you. I wouldn't even say it's an interview, it's more of a conversation.
A conversation. Thank you. And I like to talk. That's the problem. I used to get, when I was in school, my report card was good student, talks too much.
I think that was a lot of us, a lot of us. Everybody was talking too much.
Yeah, but it seems that the people who talk too much had a lot to say, and because of their willingness to communicate, have actually gotten far in life because of it. So yeah, continue talking it.
Oh, so you see that the thing is right now, I keep saying one more, but I keep seeing questions, right?
What?
One question that somebody asked me to ask, and if I don't ask that person going and excommunicate me, so I have to ask it.
Yes.
So, I mean, even myself, right, throughout the interview, I've noticed an extreme amount of humility, and the person asks, how do you stay so grounded? How do you, with everything that you've done, with everywhere that you've gone, with all the interactions you've had with all these wonderful people, how do you remain so grounded throughout all of it?
I have to tell you, I was raised by two of the most fabulous people on the planet. My parents were, I don't know, when I was young, I didn't appreciate it, but as an adult, I realized the value of being raised by two parents who were so well grounded in life and the art of being part of a whole. That's what keeps you grounded. You realize that you are not some special thing that is, out there and everybody should grovel at your feet. You are part of a whole. If I don't take care of all the people around me, my environment, mankind, all those different aspects of my life form who I am. And I have not lost sight of the fact that I am not who I am without everybody else. Okay? So it is always my position that when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to an audience. These are me. I'm treating myself, basically, because if without mankind, where would I be? Without my country, where would I be? Without my neighbors, or without my family, where would I be? So these are all extensions of me. So I always consider that when I speak to somebody, I respect them like I would respect myself. I have great respect for myself. I respect you the same, unless you give me some other reason not to. And even then, I still have to hold myself and say, yes, you have to think from the view of the other person. They may be upset for a different reason than, So for me, what keeps me grounded is knowing that I am part of a whole. I am not just an individual all by myself who doesn't need anybody. I need everybody who's around, and I not just everybody, my animals. I have chickens and goats and rabbits and flowers and all those living things around me. And I take care of all these living things like they are part of me. So I just consider myself part of the universe, and everything in the universe is part of me. So I have to treat it with the same respect that I would treat myself. That's my philosophy.
So there you have it, guys. There you have it. Michele Henderson, class act. And again, I'm going to say it from my community, right? I know Hadley a little jealous, but that's how it goes.
Trust me. Don't let me talk about my experiences. So brag about your community still.
Yeah, man. South City have ranks, We have we have Esa, we have Michele, we have prime ministers, we have presidents, we ranking,
What are you talking about that? I always say, if Granby, all I have to do is put an airport Granby and that's it. It's a wrap.
Yeah, right on the lally.
We like a country by ourselves.
Of course. But so yeah, so to all the viewers, we want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight again. It was definitely a great conversation with Michele. Next week we'll be having on a young lady who is very, very educated, an academic. She is none other than Dr. Jarrell Joseph. She currently lives in London. She actually she has a PhD from a PhD in chemistry. And we've done a lot of musicians, we've done sports people. Now we want to make sure that we kind of touching all the different aspects of the talented and hardworking people we have in Dominica. So next week we'll be having on Dr. Jarrell Joseph. Key caveat though, because of obviously she lives in London, we cannot have the interview at 8 o'clock. So we will be having the interview at 6 o'clock next Wednesday, 6 o'clock Eastern. Obviously it will be on for anybody who cannot tune in live at 6 o'clock. It will be on the page, but we will be sending out that communication as soon as possible. And we would appreciate it if you guys tune in. If you guys have any questions for Dr. Jarrell Joseph, you guys can send it to the email, which is talktheting767@gmail.com. You could also send us communication through our Instagram page, which is talktheting_DA. And you could also message us on our Facebook page at Talk the Ting DA. All right. So we want to thank Michele again for joining us, and have a good night, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Michele.
Bye.